All right, as I mentioned, we are, of course, following the developments of a reported Russian attack on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in southeastern Ukraine. That's the plant there. You can see it on the map there in the southeastern corner of the country. It's not terribly far from the so-called breakaway provinces, Donetsk and Luhansk, that Vladimir Putin first used as his excuse for invading Ukraine. NBC News correspondent Cal Perry joins us live from Lviv in Ukraine with the latest. Cal, what can you tell us?
So look, about 24 hours ago, our viewers will remember civilians stopping 2 tanks and 2 armored personnel carriers. This is in the town of Enhodar, and those were Russian troops moving in on this power plant. This is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. It supplies a quarter of the power here in the city of Ukraine. At some point, in the country of Ukraine. In the last 24 hours, the situation disintegrated. It started as a small arms firefight, that according to the National Guard here, and has in the last few hours become a full-fledged firefight. According to the government here, the Russians not only are targeting the plant, but a fire has broken out inside this nuclear power plant. The situation escalated. First, the mayor sounded the alarm. Then we heard from the Ukrainian military. And just in the past few minutes, this from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He writes, quote, "The Russian army is firing from all sides on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest power plant in Europe. Fire has broken out." And he writes, this is his words, "If it blows up, it will be 10 times larger than Chernobyl. Russians must immediately cease the fire, allow firefighters, and establish a security zone." I know where that tweet is coming from because this, according to Reuters, and I just want to be clear on the sourcing, this is from Reuters. I am 600 miles from the plant. Quote, "Firefighters cannot start extinguishing the fire at the nuclear power plant. They are being fired upon at point-blank range. There is already a hit on the first power unit." This was, in many ways, a military target. What's been happening in the north of the country is the Russians are choking these villages, these towns. They're indiscriminately shelling them, and they're hitting the local power grids. With this power plant controlling a quarter of the power supply to the country, you can see why the Russians would want to take it. But what's happened in the last few hours is certainly alarming. The Ukrainian government is trying to raise the alarm to the world that not only is there a fire at the plant, but there's this ongoing fighting in which they cannot seem to push the Russians back any longer, and the situation, as they would say, is really alarming and out of control, Chris.
All right, Cal Perry, you've been doing great reporting there. Thank you for joining us at the last second, and please stay safe there. We appreciate it. I'm joined once again by John Woolstall. We just had him on this week. He served as Senior Director for Nonproliferation and Arms Control at the National Security Council in the Obama administration, currently a Special Advisor to Global Zero, an international movement for the elimination of all nuclear weapons, and he joins me now. John, you and other nuclear experts, I'm watching live real-time response to this about how freaked out should we be? What do we know about how dangerous this is? How should we think about this?
So, what I just tweeted out when I heard about this story was everybody needs to take a deep breath. I know there's an instinct to jump to, is this Chernobyl? How much in danger are we? But we do know a little bit. There are live feeds from the reactor that actually are showing the radiation levels in the area. They are not increasing. The video appears to have a fire inside one of the buildings, but what we can see is that the containment building itself remains intact. And it's important to know that this is a totally different design than the reactors at Chernobyl. It is designed so that if it shuts down and has no power, it doesn't burst into flames and can be safe, and actually has a cement containment system. So while we're obviously concerned about any time you see fire and nuclear power plant, God forbid, arms fire or shelling a nuclear power plant, we get worried. But right now, it doesn't seem to be a disaster in the making, but it's a horrific situation. And of course, it is all at the feet of the Russian invasion. And they have a moral, national, and legal responsibility to cease operations around the plant and let the Ukrainian authorities access, put out the fire, and accept international support, which is now on offer to go and help and make sure that this doesn't become a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the laws of war are so often honored in the breach, and we've seen what appears to be indiscriminate targeting of civilians in contravention to the laws of war just in the first week of this. But there is international law around nuclear sites and war, right? I mean, there is an obligation here for obvious reasons to allow this the safety issues to be addressed first and foremost.
there are legal requirements here, but there's also just national self-interest.
Yes.
The winds are blowing from west to east. If there is, God forbid, a release of radiation, it's going to blow into Russia.
Right.
So, not that Vladimir Putin cares about the Russian people, but if he has any, a shred of morality left in him, and if he's worried about what will happen to him personally, being held responsible for what is happening in Ukraine, at the very least, they need to stop operations around this plant. It's just abhorrent in every level that a country that's already suffered the Chernobyl disaster, that's already being inflicted with this invasion, is now going to have to deal with this. And I think you're going to hear calls immediately tomorrow for people to say, well, we have to have a no-fly zone around this area so that people can get in. This is why we're concerned about any conflict in Europe, about any conflict with Russia and the United States or NATO. Things can get out of control quickly, and we have to be very cautious about what's going to happen today, tomorrow, until we can get this conflict to end.
I want to just stress a thing you said at the beginning in case it went by people, because you gave us a lot of information. Obviously, Chernobyl is still exists. It was sited in Ukraine, which was then part of the Soviet Union. This is a different plant, effective nature to the plant design there, born in some ways of cost cutting that was part of the long chain of causation that gave the world that horrible nuclear disaster. Just to reiterate, this is not that design, and we have every reason to believe the engineering and fail safes in place are what they should be and far superior to Chernobyl.
It's absolutely correct, Chris. And what we're going to be looking for is, one, is there any damage to the plant itself, the actual nuclear components to the plant? If not, then there's no immediate cause for concern. What we will then immediately start to look for is does it have external power? These plants power themselves. The pumps, the cooling systems are powered by the nuclear plant. If they fail, then they should have secondary and tertiary power sources, which allow that cooling to take away the heat and make sure that the nuclear reactor and the nuclear fuel doesn't melt. So that's what we're going to be looking for and watching over the next 24 hours.
Okay, John Wilstall, thank you. That was very, very, very useful. I appreciate it.